Anita Delight Danquah, who is a solicitor and a barrister. When she's done with her presentation, I'm going to talk about where she works and probably how you can, talk to her anytime you need. Thank you so much, lady. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Gloria. Good morning, and all protocol observed. Gloria, the pressure beat so I maintenance. Let me take this opportunity to acknowledge my boss, Professor Imanatiguba, my all-time boss. If I'm here today, it's because of Prof. And Prof, thank you so much. So my work is quite simple, and fortunately for you, I hope it will be that interesting as my colleagues. So we are looking at why estate and gifting is important in protecting the vulnerable. With the vulnerable, I'll be looking at women and children. And I do hope that when we are having this discussion, you will agree with me that women and children are more vulnerable. Yeah. If you don't agree, as time goes, I hope I'm able to convince you that women and children are vulnerable. Amen? Amen. Okay, so moving on, let me just first and foremost, let's have a little discussion about what estate is, what gifting is, what gift planning is, and then I'll zoom into my main discussion. So when we talk about estate, it's practically about all the properties and debt a person owes at a particular time, usually upon the person's death. So we can put them in three phases. We have the landed property. So landed property, you are looking at the lands, farms, houses. We have the movable properties. Most often I know the cars and the chattels, what we call the chattels. So the cars, the jewelry, and the personal belongings of the person. Then we look at other properties. It could be investment, shares, accounts, bank accounts, money is in the banks and all that. So you can look at that as other properties. So when we talk of estates, we are looking at what the person owes and the debt of the person at the time usually of the person's death. Now let's come to gifting. Gifting usually is giving someone a gift or giving someone something directly or indirectly when consideration is not given, or when full consideration is not given. So someone willingly gives something to you, and all things being equal, either you don't pay for it or you don't give full consideration for it. So who can you gift? Most often than not, we see parents gifting to children, spouse to spouse, individuals to family members, friends, loved ones. Nowadays, we see more of individuals giving to their alma mater. So you went to a particular school. So upon your death, or even while alive, you can say, I'm building this library for the school. Then we have people giving to their churches. Now the churches are becoming very, very rich. And then we have, in some instance, in the Ghanaian setting, we think it's weird, but there are some people who really give their gifts to the animals, either dogs, cats. We've had such instances. And of course, we have the state. And as my colleague said, the state always needs money, right? So if you give to the state will take it as well.
So I have with me here a lawyer, barrister, solicitor, and the person of Mrs. Anita Delight Danquah, and she will be with me in the conversation about gifts and estate planning, and why is it important for you, wherever you are, whatever you do, to also do well and then find out more about gifts and estate planning, why you should also start planning to will and do other legal stuff with your properties. And I have with me, you're welcome to Lexington Finance. Thank you. We're talking about gifts and estate planning as one issue that people don't really pay attention to. Why is it so important to the people of Ghana from your point of view?
Most people die or become incapacitated, and then their beneficiaries suffer. You realize that all we do is to acquire properties, acquire wealth, and there's no plan whatsoever. Should something happen to you, or should you die, what's the way forward? Nothing. So you die and you realize that people who ordinarily shouldn't even have access to your property are groveling and fighting over your properties. And so the idea is that we want to teach people how to really plan their lives. So whilst you are acquiring the properties, which is so important, what is the next step? Should you be no more or should you be incapacitated? What is next? That is the idea.
People really don't understand issues of like this when it comes to financial planning because of what they think goes into it. Now, what kind of properties are we talking about here? What kind of properties must one acquire? I mean, your target should be the billionaires and millionaires who have a lot, a myriad of properties, not the ones who have really started life with a few things. Who are your targets when it comes to gifts and estate planning?
Everyone, so far as you're above the age of 18 years. The idea is that, do you have a beneficiary? Is someone depending on you? So it means that if someone is depending on you, the money you are acquiring or whatever you are acquiring, that person, if you should be no more, that person will suffer. So let's say, for example, you are working, you have SNET, insurance. Who is your beneficiary? Okay. Before you got married, it was your sister or your mom. Now you are married. You have a wife, you have children, and still it's those beneficiaries. You have to go and change them. You have a car, you have one house somewhere, you have a land. You think it's not a big deal. Should you die, people come and fight over the properties. And then, of course, the lawyers will get the money and will chop for it because then litigation gives us more money. So we fight and then we'll get the property. So the idea is that plan, put in place structures. Should something happen to you, who should take over? You have a power of attorney. Someone can take over and ensure that your properties are managed well. Should you die, you've made a will. You've already shared to those who you think are important and who rely on you. So by that time, you're already covered everywhere. So when you leave, there's no chaos behind you. Otherwise, you leave and there's so much fighting and so much bickering, and a family who should be mourning and who should be united are now fighting with each other, all because of your lack of planning.
You agree with me that there are a number of laws which are actually surrounding these gift planning and estate planning matters, because the income tax law, the PNDC law, and all that. All of these laws are there. Some people are actually ignorant about all these laws, but they have no idea what is worth planning on. I don't have a landed property. I don't actually possess a mobile property.
What do you have?
Well, they have something which cannot be valued beyond 1,000 cedis.
Okay. So most often than all things being equal, if the amount is less than 1,000 Ghana cedis, it's PNDC law 1 will tell you that it goes absolutely to the wife and kids. Oh, okay. And that in itself, there can be some infightings there. So because some people have expensive jewelries, some people have good shoes, all these things. And unfortunately for us, when most men sometimes give birth outside of marriage. So these children will be part of the children we'll be sharing. So we have a wife with 4 kids and they don't know anything about 3 or 4 children out there. Those children will be coming to share in the property. How is the property shared? You see, so these fighters, trust me, you think that you have just one coat and it's not a big deal. For someone, they are waiting for you to die for them to get a coat. It's important to them. So just protect your family, protect the vulnerable, protect those who look up to you. And irrespective of what you have, frankly, it's not that expensive to get a lawyer. You get a lawyer depending on the properties involved. It can be as cheap as 500, but it can be, of course, very expensive depending on the properties you own.
That really scares the people. So I deduce that one of the hindrances as at now, especially that people don't really get used to finding about planning their finances because of the charges that are entailed in it. And with regards to estate planning, somebody may have a property which is not even worth beyond 5,000 Ghana cedis, but perhaps they perceive that they may be making premium payments monthly on these properties whilst they are alive. So what's the essence paying premiums on a property for which I'm still alive to see it? Why not keeping it and then have it go under the PNDC law 111? What would be your view? How is it done? How are payments done? I think that's the biggest hindrance here.
So it's a one-time off payment. Okay. You go to your lawyer drafts the will for you, it's done. That one payment the lawyer charged, that is it. But as time goes on, you might be acquiring more properties, The people you have listed as your beneficiaries you might divorce some might die, you might give birth to more children. So you can update it with the codicil. So we have another instrument called the codicil. So the lawyer will be updating it for you. And trust me, it is not that expensive. So the main will is there, and the codicil will be just added. And those ones, because the lawyer is now your lawyer, it just comes with a very, very few coins. It's not that expensive. So it's not as if every month, every year, you'll be paying the lawyer. No. After the will is done, you are done. Unless you are going to update it, that's why you pay something little. But consultation fee, you don't pay again because you've already made the will. What you'll be paying maybe will be little legal fee, and when you are going to file it in court, the administrative fees.
So a rough figure, minimally rough figure.
If you're looking at 5,000, trust me, you'll not spend less than 500. Let's say, no more than 500.
So the metric is the higher the value for the property,
the more properties you have, the more complex the will becomes. Okay. So if you have one house, one car, I will this to this, I will this to that, then I get the witnesses, I'm done. Less than 30 minutes, 1 hour, I'm done. But there's some people, they have about 5 lands here, 10 lands there. You have to now put in the schedule, and it can take you about 3 weeks. So that, of course.
Yeah, let me wrap up with this.
Let me see this, that you think having a lawyer to draft a will is more expensive. Trust me, that after your death, it's even more expensive when you don't have a will. Because most of it are not this contentious as in fighting. The lawyer will be paid about 300, 400 times more than if you had made a will. If you had covered your back, there's no problem. The lawyer just pick it, they go to court, they ensure property is done. That is it. Little money here, good. But if you don't, and there's chaos, I had a client, up to now, they are still fighting, and the property is almost gone. They are using the property, everything is gone. And it's gone, yeah, we are lawyers, and sometimes it's my job. I'll take it, you pay. But sometimes you look at the infighting, the money, we all came to meet money, we leave money behind. But the family ties, that will be broken, all because you couldn't and you refused to plan. It's another ballgame altogether.
No, I know you have to leave it. We'll have to wrap up quickly, but let's touch on this one. If somebody is so reluctant and relies on the PADC law 111, which is quite the state's official and let me say general means of distribution of the interstate of your properties, what then is there any dispute against the PADC law 111 for now? If one would say, okay, I won't rely on the PADC law and forget about any personal will that I'll make. What's your view on that?
Okay, so PADC law 111 looks at 4 main group of people. We are looking at your spouse, your children, your parents, and the customary successor. Maybe there's more people you want to bequeath your properties to. But if these are the 4 people you are thinking of, all things being equal, they're giving your wife 3 of, if you take out the matrimonial home, which is for the wife and children, and then your chateau also for the wife and children, they're dividing the whole property into 16. Your wife will get 3 of 16, your children will get 9 of 16, the parents will get 2 of 16, and then the customer successor will get 2 of 16. Is that what you really want? Is that what you envisage for your children? Okay. Most often than not, the family steps in. PADC law 111 is supposed to take effect, but you realize that the customary law, which goes contrary to the PADC law 111, most of the time steps in, and the family and the chiefs and everyone will force the woman to kowtow to the customary. So the customary law will tell you that we are patrilineal. We share properties in respect to the men. So the women are not entitled to any of the properties.
By then nullifying the effect of the PADC law 111.
Exactly. But PADC law 111 is higher than the customary law. So ordinarily, that shouldn't even happen. But you're going to the village and a woman is against the whole community, against the whole custom. How does she fight?
And because of relationships and also time, you won't be able to go and then seek legal.
Most of them don't even know about the law. And those who know about the law are not ready to fight. It's as if you are grieving for crying out loud. You're grieving for your husband, and now you are going to fight over properties. And the perception being that you killed your husband to get the property. And all these, so the women will just let go. So you meet a lot of women who are like, you are ready to fight for them, and they're like, it's just properties. Let it go. So you can't do much. You can't do much. But should the new law be enacted, and should people be more educated, and most important, people plan and put in place the right structures, PRTC 111 will become redundant, and the new bill will not even be needed to be passed.
Great. We're so glad to have Anita Delight, Mrs. Anita Delight Danquah with me here, a lawyer and a solicitor of the law, and we're discussing estate and gift planning and why you should start now. If you haven't, start planning your estate and also go for a will, going for a tax expert, going for a lawyer to help you plan this, to prevent this future conflict and dispute that you wouldn't want to find happening if you are alive. Thank you very much for your time watching us on Let's Talk Finance. My name is Ajima Chodako, and thank you very much, Anita, for the time you made on this show. Have a nice day and bye.